What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest of cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon
What's up? What's up?
and Chris Abicon.
What's going on, everybody?
What's going on? So, welcome to another week of episodes. I always forget to shout out holidays. Happy belated Valentine's Day, Happy Black History Month. Please continue to tune in throughout the week. So Monday, Tuesday are topics, Wednesday discussion. Thursdays, Ask Us SP. I have like 7 lined up. So I got like 7 interviews coming up. People are excited to be back on the show. And then Fridays, everything else. So movies, books, games, all that good stuff. So without further ado, I'll give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. This first article is from securityweek.com, written by, I think I'm going to say this right, Ionit Argire. I'm sorry if I messed that up.
You did way better than I would have.
So the title of this one is Ex-Employees Admin Credentials Used in U.S. Government Agency Hack. So threat actors, they found administrative credentials that had already been breached, right? And it was for a former employee to hack a U.S. government organization, right? So this is why account management is so important, right? Like when it comes to when people are leaving an agency, giving them least amount of privileges for only for what they need. This is the reason this is important, right? Because this was somebody who's no longer even working with the agency, which they have not named the agency, right? But CISA is the one that's doing the investigating of this, and they've said that the reason they got in is because there was an admin credential that was left in the network that should have been gotten rid of, right? Like that should be one of the out processing things that you do for people, right? So what happened was they got onto the SharePoint server, used that to get credentials for another employee that was in the system, right? And then from there, there's all types of damage that can be done, right? They got into the on-premises AD, the Active Directory, the Azure Active Directory, and got administrative privileges, right? So there's things you do in instances like this, right? So if you're in different environments, usually, well, let me not say you usually don't. I can't assume that, but you should not have one credential that's just that moves across all those different environments, right? Like make them different, right? When I do my IA training, I tell people use different passwords across different networks, all types of things like that, right? Like it's just good cyber hygiene to do these types of things. But in this instance, they failed, right? So especially, and this is kind of crazy because of all the different hacks and all the different cases of accounts and passwords being exposed. Like it would seem people would be more vigilant about these types of things, right? But apparently that's not the case. This agency is not doing what they need to do, right? So like this is what can happen from that, right? You don't have the good cyber hygiene, cyber maintenance. You don't at least disable the accounts, you know what I'm saying? Like at least that much, for a certain amount of time. But to leave this up here like this, more than likely they just left it active. Someone left, they didn't do what they need to do, again, because there's probably more than likely not a good out processing process. That sounds weird, out processing process, right? But but still, like this is why you do those things, right? To keep these types of things from happening. But Chris, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, first thing I thought was, they did not properly secure his accounts upon notification of a termination of employment or when that person left employment, right? So literally, not literally, I guess, when the proper way to do this, right, is upon notification of the employee, either his 2-week notice or whenever his end date is, his or her last day of work, that should be when the administrators go in and disable that account, right? So if it's an employee termination, it is literally after the Zoom meeting or the Teams meeting in which that person talks to their supervisor. Supervisor needs to get on the phone with HR. HR goes ahead and starts that outboarding, offboarding process, right? Which does involve IT. So really, that goes to show you the level of maturity within that company, right? So when companies are just doing things ad hoc and they're not documenting, they're not following procedures, right? That's when you have little hiccups like this, right? And then notably as well, they in the article they didn't talk about multi-factor authentication being utilized, right? So other methods of identification, right, or authorization as well could have definitely helped with this as well. So really, what the company could have done, or at least this organization could have done, is one, like you said, make sure they have a proper asset management of all assets to include personnel, devices, accounts, right? Because in cybersecurity, right, a lot of us we have a list of people that are privileged accounts, right? We've got all of that stuff documented. You got everything documented to the account as well as the system itself in which that person has rights to that escalated privileges, right? So upon notification, there should have been the HR and IT should have looked at that matrix. Oh, look, employee X has this much. All these accounts need to go. If it's just one account that's still active, that's a definite definite entryway into the environment, right? And lastly, I did want to talk about best practices, right? Really strong password management, secure credential storage, regular validation of security controls, right? These are all just things that companies need to start doing or should be doing, right? A lot of people say they're doing things and they're really not doing things, right?
And what's crazy about this
Yeah, absolutely.
before you
So
go, Ryan, hold on real quick before you go, Ryan. So what's crazy about this is that it's an admin account, right? So
Mhm,
they that whole team is the one that's taking care of this, right? They would know if one of their own was gone. That's what makes it.
mhm,
It's not like it was somebody in sales, and I realize it was a DoD agency, right? So it's not sales, right? It's a government agency, but like if it was somebody in one of the, um, I don't want to say less important either, but one of those that was not in the IT circle, maybe I could see it getting by a little bit more. But when one of your own off the team is gone, you know what I mean? It's like how
right.
does it get by?
Yeah, right.
that's
Like,
very true.
yeah, they're high risk individuals, right? So that organization, if it's like, yeah, if DoD organization should already have those high risk individuals identified, right? Anytime anything happens with those accounts, they need to be logged, right? Like there's a privileged, there's a specific process for logging privileged actions, right? All that needs to be identified, and there needs to be a level of accountability to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So before I go, I always forget like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, right? So no, I completely agree with both of you. So especially when it comes to identity access management, right? So IAM is paramount, especially for privileged or admin accounts in this circumstance. So I like that Shannon brought up offboarding, um, or he said out processing, same difference, right? It just depends on who you work for. So I guess my contribution will be who is doing their evaluations, right? So who's actually looking at or doing their assessments,
Mhm,
because part of that is the personal termination, right? So what is it? The CSF 1.1 or 2.0 should be this month, should be rolling out. I think it's like PS4 personnel termination. So when someone's going in there doing your assessment, they're going to look to see like who has their accounts. Are you properly offboarding? Like there should be some linkage
mhm,
between the admin team and the human resources or whatever the equipment is, the security office, etc. That shows, hey, these people have been offboarded. Here's how we do the process. This is when we get rid of accounts. And like Chris said, usually that's prior to the meeting starting for your termination. Like they're already in the works. In this case, maybe they were sharing an admin account. Like maybe that's what was going on, which is also uh, uh, horrific because things like this happen because of that. But let's say they weren't. Let's say this person had their individual admin account. Yeah, as soon as they were either in person in the termination meeting or on, like you said, the Skype or what have you, the Teams meeting, they should have been shutting that account off to make sure that
mhm.
person couldn't do any harm. Um, so how did it slip through? Who knows? But it should have been caught during the audit. They should have said, "Hey, why is this account still active?" And they should cut it off at that time. But let's just say it didn't make it to that point. Let's say it made it all the way to their latest assessment. When the person was going through the roles and they were looking at all their accounts to verify if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing per PS-4, right? Personal termination. They would have saw like, okay, you guys are not offboarding people. So this is where you take a hit, and this is something you should be working towards, right? You should fix your policy because obviously it's not either being enforced or it's not covered that admin accounts need to be either changed or passwords need to be changed or they need to be shut off or some equivalent to stop this from happening. So maybe in the upcoming weeks, they'll actually share with us which agencies were impacted, but I kind of doubt it in this situation.
I hope for their sakes it was not a group account, like a
Yeah,
group account or shared account. Like, how do you audit properly
Yeah.
in that instance, right? Like, if
Then you
live
can't.
that's the truth.
Yeah.
You can't. Yeah.
Yeah, then you can't if it's a group account. So it probably was not, but I mean, they're still out there. Let's not kid ourselves, especially when it comes to people who are not on the security side. Let's say, and not to shots fired, right? Those who are on the DevOps side or whatever, those people who are on the developer side, because they don't like to always abide by all the rules because they slow them down significantly. So, you know, like the whole thing between sandbox and the prod, right? Like there's like, well, we can make these little tweaks in prod. Maybe they didn't have time to go back and fix the account or what have you, or maybe they just didn't want to follow the policy and procedures. So again, not trying to attack other sectors of IT, but it's probably not.
It's interesting they got access to on-premises ID, Active Directory as well as Azure Active Entra ID, right? So, I mean, really, I think maybe they some type of federated environment, right? I'm not really sure if like Shannon was saying that maybe there's one account to rule them all, right? But
Right.
I really hope that wasn't the case.
Yeah, so the admin 123 is admin 1234. Got them. We're
We
in.
should all go, man, passwordless. We should go passwordless.
Yeah, that is
I
the
like
future. Like, when
passwordless.
are we gonna get there?
I like biometrics and something you have. You can't beat it. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Like I can't wait for the passwordless future.
for the
'Cause-
government, it'll probably be a little while to roll out, right? Because it
That's
comes
true.
down to the amount of money you'd have to invest for whatever, for whatever you're doing, right? Like,
Yeah.
they may determine, okay, this system is not that important to actually make that happen
Yeah.
until someone hacks it and then uses that to leapfrog into something else, to leapfrog into something. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's not an issue until it's an issue. That's how that goes.
Yeah.
Like
But
the government already has government employee and military, biometrics in terms of like fingerprints and stuff,
Mhm.
right? So I mean, yeah, the amount of error, right? The error
yeah, I
rate
was gonna say
for
the
bio,
false.
yeah, would be
Yeah, the false.
false
The false
rejection rate,
rejection.
yeah,
Yeah, would
a
be
false
extreme.
acceptance rate as well, yeah,
Yeah, it'd be extremely high.
R and F, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, because I remember thumbprint readers being issued to me when I was
Mhm.
in the mountain home. So that would have been like early 2000s, and they did not
Yeah.
work. It just
Oh,
didn't.
did I tell you when I took my CISP exam, they did a handprint, right? Man,
Yep.
that
The
it
palm, the
took me
palm
like
print.
five.
Yep.
Yeah, it took me like 5 tries. What is this going on? with this?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just imagine that being utilized in any government scenario. So many complaints. I feel bad for that IT team, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be tragic. So I don't there's multiple ways around it. I don't know what the future holds, but I need a 16 character password is just not going to work because you don't want to change it at that point, or you just add one extra character, what have you, like to have that because in the mind, like, so I'm trying to be the mind of the user, right? It's really annoying to have an account per enclave and then have that to be unique per enclave, right? And then you're going to forget it and have to reset it, and then you're putting a burden on the help desk. Um, because there's just like I reset passwords every day. I want to actually do my other duties as opposed to resetting all these passwords. Especially come off a long weekend, everybody forgets their password. And now
Oh
you
yeah.
have 3 or 4 different passwords that you have to try to maintain. So you might have the bad idea to, I'm gonna put on a sticky note or something like that, right? Or I'm just gonna go down the keyboard on the slant.
Keyboard walk.
Yeah. So we have to get rid of passwords.
I
I thought
specifically tell people, in my training, because I do the IA training for them, do not do that.
Mhm.
Do not. I tell them, if I walk by your desk, I was like, I walk by this facility, I'm in this facility walking around all the time. If I walk by your desk and I see a sticky that has, this different criteria for setting passwords, I have a
Yeah.
pretty good idea what that is. I don't want to see that. Right? I don't have to lift up your keyboard and see there's a sticky note under there with, uppercase, lowercase, number, special character, this long.
You know,
Yeah.
I used to think keyboard walk was secure when I was like 16 years old. I'm like, yeah, there's no way they're guessing this.
Right.
No
Hold shift
way.
1 down. Let's go shift 2 down. Terrible. But I gotta land this plane. Definitely continue to tune in throughout the week. Hit us up, find the websites, go by our name. Stay safe, stay secure.